Hey guys, so I've been back in Amarillo now for a few months, and I got to tell you, we got to relook at our humidity. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris, and you are watching CNC Reptiles. We are a family of ball python keepers, and hopefully here pretty quick in the future, soon to be breeders of these wonderful animals. And really, we just enjoy kind of documenting our experiences and sharing it here on YouTube. So if you're not already a subscriber with us, guys, we hope that if you like what you see, you'll go ahead and maybe subscribe and ring that notification bell. Maybe leave us a comment down below what you think of what we've got going on over here. But this is Rogelio. Rogelio is our only male right now. So he's our super OD, super inchy, banana, yellow belly, 100% head pied, 50% head goes. He's quite the little stud. We've actually just posted some new pictures of him over on Instagram. So feel free to run over there and follow us at ccreptiles_IG. Try to post over there daily, new pics of all of our animals. But guys, before we get started in what today's video about of kind of remanaging our humidity as we've moved, would really like to talk about something kind of weighing pretty heavy on my heart here. Over the past week, you may or may not know, but the folks here in Texas really had a rough week. We had some unprecedented cold and snow, power loss, and just freezing temperatures. Things that we don't really see here in Texas. Now, I'll tell you, we were very fortunate here in Amarillo. We're a little bit more accustomed to the snow and the cold. We're in the far northern panhandle of Texas, so we have a little bit more infrastructure built around that. But man, when you get a little bit further south of us, especially when you look at some of the bigger markets like DFW and Houston, San Antonio, Austin, they're just not built for the temperatures that we saw and the amount of snow that we saw. So a lot of people went without power for a long time, guys. And now as things are kind of thawing, we're seeing some different issues pop up. Not just, people worried about their collections during this time and losing snakes and animals, but a lot of people, losing their lives as well. And just a really horrific thing that kind of went on. But Texas is strong, and we will get through it, but we need your help. There's a couple of groups that have organized, and if you can, if you're able to help with maybe some donations, Herp's Family at gmail.com, and then Reptile Relief 101 at gmail.com. There are a couple of PayPals that have been set up, run by some great people. The Herp's Family is Sean Gray, and it's the, in fact, if you haven't seen this video right here, the last expo that I went to was a Herp's Family Expo. And so anyways, guys, if you can and you're able, please help donate for those that are just really going through a rough time right now, both with their families and with their collections. And so the only other thing, guys, before we get started, man, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now in the reptile community with our different local governments. So whether it's the shipping ban in New York, to the Tegu ban in South Carolina, to the ban of all constrictors that's about to be proposed down in Florida, guys, if you're not already a part of USARK, I ask that you go over there. For as little as $1, you can help out. And really, guys, if you keep reptiles, these are people whose passion is ensuring that we're able to continue to keep and work with these animals that we love. So guys, all right. Now that we talked about that, let's talk a little bit more about humidity. Come on, let's head in the snake tent. Hey guys, welcome to the snake tent. So for those of you that are new to the channel, a few months ago, I was moved, the day job moved us from Houston, Texas, which is far south Texas, just north of the Gulf, to Amarillo, Texas, which is the far northern panhandle of Texas. And as you can imagine, as big of a state as Texas is, we have vastly different climates. So this is about humidity. Well, in this video, one of these two places, I talked about the humidity issues that we actually had down in Houston. And the humidity issues in Houston are not really like some of the humidity issues in other parts of the state or really other parts of the country. We battled very high humidity. So the relative humidity in my reptile room in Houston was always 50% or higher. Just really depended, but it really was kind of around that 50 to maybe even 55%. So what I actually battled in my tubs here was decreasing the humidity, because once you put the water in there, if you added any type of, spraying down the coconut substrate or anything like that, man, my humidity would skyrocket. And it would be maybe 70, 80, up to 90%. So it was I used really dry substrate. And the only time I'd really ever wet the substrate is if they were going into shed. Then I'd wet down the substrate and boom, we were good to go. It's a little different here in Amarillo, however. So Amarillo is a much drier climate. It's really kind of more of a tropical environment down there in Houston. Here in Amarillo, it's a much drier climate. We're kind of up on a pseudo plateau, if you will. And really you can see forever, right? So we get a lot of wind, especially from the north, that can cool things down. And so really my major thought when I moved to Amarillo was, okay, how am I going to keep the snakes warm? So I like to keep my reptile room between 79 to 81 degrees, somewhere in there. As long as we're in that general area, I'm pretty happy. Snakes are pretty happy. Things are working out really well. Well, one of the things that we found out really quickly was to keep this temporary tent. Now we are going to move them to a proper reptile room when we actually move into our house. But to keep it warm enough, it drastically reduced my humidity in the tent. That kind of makes sense, right? So I've got and I'll show you here in a minute just kind of the full setup. I know you can't really see it right now, but I've got a space heater and then I've got a portable heating and cooling unit that ultimately takes the air that's cooler, warms it, and kind of dispels all the cool air back out into the garage. So I keep the warmth that I need, but an adverse effect of that is I lose a lot of the humidity. Well, that also impacts the tubs, right? So if you lose humidity in your overall room isn't as warm, or I'm sorry, isn't as humid, then your tubs aren't going to be as humid, right? And so so let's take a little bit closer look at kind of like what we're doing, and we'll talk a little bit more about how we've tried to fix it. Let's see. Okay guys, so I flipped the camera around so you can get a little bit better look at the kind of the overall makeup of our temporary reptile tent. So right here, as you can see, that's that portable unit I was just telling you about. So ultimately the way that works is it draws air in, it warms the air up, then it blows it out this tube, basically back out here into the garage. This flap right here basically folds down. I just have it up so I can show you guys what's going on. So it warms the air. Now that's not always enough. So you can see right over there in the corner on the ground, I've got a little space heater, right? So I use that to help just help continue warming the air to keep my reptile room at like I said, 79 to 81%, or 79 to 81 degrees, excuse me. And it works out quite well for that. But as I said, kind of that adverse effect is it lowers my humidity fairly drastically, certainly does not keep it where I want it. All right, so our heat's okay, but man, we just really have this humidity issue. So what are we gonna do to fix it? Well, my first thought was, let's see if I can just manage it in the tub, right? So basically, you can see our tub setup here, maybe. Let me get that set up for you there. All right, so here's our tub setup. Now this is Cutie's tub. She is our clown female. And so basically what I did was I really started just trying to manage it in the tub. So I would wet down, I thought, okay, I can just spray down this coconut husk. Coconut husk obviously is great for retaining moisture, which it does really well. But even with spraying it down, you can see right now, my humidity in here is about 45%. Let me see. Now, first off, let me tell you, these are just directional. I don't use these as kind of the end all be all, but roughly 45%, which makes a little bit of sense because right now my room is at about 30%. So let's take a look here. About 30% in the room. Now the temperature is a little less, guys. It's about 77 right now. That's because I've turned off everything so I can shoot this and we don't hear all the whining in the back. But so right at about 45%. Obviously I want that between 50 and 60 just in general. And so even wetting this down, and it's a little dry. I mean, I wet this down this morning, but it's still a little bit dry. I'm really trying to wet it down in the back to see if I can get it to stay. And that sort of worked a little bit, but the adverse effect of that is I noticed, man, I really started going through ReptiChip fairly quickly, right? So instead of having it where maybe in Houston about every 2 months I was changing out my ReptiChip, I was changing this out every month. Well, that's a big increase in what you're utilizing, because it's just wearing the ReptiChip out a lot faster. So didn't really want to do that if I didn't have to, right? I was wetting it down about every other day is what I was having to do to keep this, to try to keep this moisture in line. And man, that just wasn't cutting. Okay, so that wasn't cutting it, right? So, but you still got to get humidity up. So what in the world are you going to do? Well, I'll tell you. I got a humidifier. So I just got just a regular humidifier you can get. I think I got it at Walmart, paid about 20 bucks for it. It's got about a gallon capacity. And started using that in the reptile room. 10. It's not really a room, but we started using that. And it works okay. It raises the relative humidity in my room from before I was using it, it hovered around that 15 to 16% mark in the actual room, right? So really pulling a lot of moisture out of the air with my heater. And it would raise it to maybe the mid 20s, right? 23, 24, maybe 25%. Because ultimately, again, what it was doing is it was pulling all the cool air along with some of the moisture out and throwing it out here into the garage, right? In fact, if we kind of run over here and look, remember it was what, 30% inside the tent, 42, well, that's backwards for you, but that says 42 outside the tent. So again, temperature working well, but all my humidity was being pulled from inside my tent here, where I needed it, out into the world. So we used the little space humidifier, if you want to call it that. It raised it, you know, not quite 10%, maybe more like 8%, which really had almost no impact, literally almost no impact inside. So you could see I've been running that all morning, and still I was between 40, well, what was it, 45% I just showed you, in the tub. So again, just not enough. So I got one more trick that I'm going to try, and I'm hoping this will turn everything on its head. Let's see. All right, so we tried just wetting down the substrate, and while that works, has a very adversarial effect on the amount of coconut that I actually have to use, right? I go through a lot more blocks if that's the sole way of doing it. So we pull back a little on that maybe, and we add a kind of a space humidifier, right? And while that does increase the humidity in the room, really didn't see much of an impact at all actually in the tub, which is really where it matters, right? So if we don't want to just solely wet down the substrate and a humidifier isn't quite cutting the trick, there's one more thing that I thought that maybe we could do that might help us here. And that, my friends, sphagnum moss. So I went out and I got this bag of sphagnum moss. Now this is relatively cheap, guys. I think this bag cost me about $5, okay? And this holds humidity extremely well. In fact, a lot of people will run humidity hives in their vivariums or terrariums or however you've got your snake set up. And they'll use sphagnum moss to provide that humidity. Now, I don't want to just throw this in there, right? I don't want to just put this and have this kind of in a corner because the snakes are going to run through it. They're going to pull it everywhere and probably lose the kind of the humidity factor, if you will, because this is just basically going to get strewn all over the tub. So how do we keep it in one spot? Don't laugh. I'm going to try pantyhose. Guys, I have no idea if this is going to work, right? But the idea is going to be maybe take a handful of sphagnum moss, put it in the pantyhose, tie it off, and then dunk that in water, wring it out a little bit, and then throw this in the back corner of one of the tubs very close to the hot spot. I don't know. Guys, I have no idea if this is going to work, but it's something that we're going to try. So what I'm going to do is, so again, the idea, maybe a handful or so of the sphagnum moss, we're going to put it in the pantyhose, we'll cut the pantyhose, tie it off, dunk that in some water. Now the two middle tubs that I have on these racks are the two that really have the hardest time with humidity. You know, if I look at this bottom rack right now, it's actually 55 to 60%. So that's actually okay. That's about where I want it just in general. I think this bottom tub, now this one's a lot, because this is Angel down here. She's about to go in the shed. This one's actually bumped up to about 70% because I really wet that down earlier. But these two middle tubs really give me kind of some issues. Top one's looking pretty good too. So it's interesting. Maybe because it's in the middle and it's getting heat from literally all around it because of how the heat tape kind of snakes through. I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna make a couple of these and we'll see kind of how they turn out. Let's see. Voila, my first two moss bombs, I guess is what we will call them. So interesting. So I used, that one looks a lot bigger than that one, doesn't it? But used what amounts to a little over, maybe a little bit more than a handful in each one. This one's a little bit more fluffy, I think, than this one. I may have compressed that a little more. But it's working okay. Now, if you've never worked with sphagnum moss before, I haven't, by the way. Very dusty. I did this at my kitchen sink. I wouldn't suggest that. I'd probably do it outside. But the idea will be is to take this, we're gonna dunk it in warm water, and then wring it out, I guess, as much as we need to. I don't know. I certainly don't think I want it sopping wet just sitting at the back of the tub. But dunk it in warm water, kind of wring it out a little bit, and then we're gonna stick this just in the back of the tub, maybe behind the hide. As you guys know, I kind of run the hides there. And see what happens, right? May work, it may not work. It may be a complete terrible idea, but so far it's holding it together. The little pieces, the little, I guess, stick pieces aren't sticking through too bad. You can kind of see that they are there a little bit, but they're not actually poking through yet, which is a good thing, right? So all in all, guys, I spent $5 on the bag of moss. I went to like the dollar store and got those pantyhose for $1. So $6. That moss is gonna probably last me forever. I don't know how long this will last or how often I'll have to switch this out. But it'll be kind of a work in progress, right? So stay tuned for kind of an update on these guys. So that's really it today. You know, we'll see how this works. Drop down below, guys, and let me know what you do to help control the humidity in your tubs. If you have a different idea, I'm certainly open to them because it's something that I've got to figure out with mine. So, guys, that's all I've got today. Hope you guys are staying safe. Take a chance if you get a chance. Like I said, let maybe reach out and help some of our brothers and sisters down in South Texas with the things that they're going on. Join USARK, and guys, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.